Hey, hey, welcome back to Cream City Dreams. This is the podcast where I talk with incredible Milwaukee women who are doing such cool things in this city. I am your host, Megan Schultz, and this week I am talking with a woman who is bringing the joy. Literally, that is her job description. I'm talking with Steph Salvia of Joy Engine. And hello, if that does not sound like an organization that is meant to spark the joy, to get us revved up on joy, and to put the pedal to the metal when it comes to filling the city with joy, I don't know what does. Listen to the ways they are promoting joy in and around our city with artists, with installations, and with events that you can tap into this summer. All right, I don't know how many more engine puns I can come up with. How about parking it right here for the next little while to listen to my conversation with Steph Salvia of Joy Engine. Today on the podcast, I am excited to welcome Steph Salvia. Steph is the executive director of Joy Engine, which is a local nonprofit with maybe one of my favorite mission statements ever: to amplify joy in our city through art, connection, and creative experiences. Oh my gosh. Yes, yes, and yes. And while listeners might not have heard of the name of their nonprofit, you definitely have seen their footprint around the city. The Rebirth series of 22 oversized birds, I think they were swallows, down at Lakeshore State Park and now dotted around town, or maybe the huge octopus like Cosmopod down on Bradford Beach and South Shore Beach last summer, or the giant 23-foot replica of the full moon that hung downtown a few years back. I have an adorable picture of my little girl holding it up, as so many others do, I'm sure. And so I can't wait to talk about what they have in store for 2025. Welcome, Steph.
Thank you. This is fun.
Yes.
It's fun for someone else to recap all the cool stuff I've been able to do
Yes,
in the
yes, so
past several
cool.
years.
Yeah, well, and as you know, this is a season all about joy. And so it made perfect sense to bring you on this podcast when the entire premise of what you do is creating joy in our city. So,
I love that.
yes, me too. Me too. So, for listeners, though, who might not be familiar with the work of Joy Engine or your history in Milwaukee, could you maybe just start with a little bit of background about what you and your team do and how the concept of Joy Engine came about?
Sure. Joy Engine was actually formed in 2019, and it was the work of a couple local Milwaukeeans who did a lot of traveling and noticed that there was a lot of cool artwork and art installations in other parts of the world or the country, and not a ton in Milwaukee.
Mm.
So they had this idea to bring a giant moon, as you mentioned, to Catalano Square Park in Milwaukee. And at the time, they didn't quite know how to do it. And I have an event production company.
Mm.
So they had called me and said, "We're bringing a moon. Can you help us?" I was like, "Sure,
Sure.
whatever you want to do, sure, let's do this." Yeah, that's actually how it started. So I was not a director for them at that point. I was just helping them create these awesome events. They were actually originally named Black Box Fund.
Hmm.
And then by 2022, they had rebranded so that the name was more reflective of what we were trying to do in the city, which literally is to create joy.
Yeah, that's yes, absolutely. Black Box to Joy Engine. I think
Yes,
so.
yeah. So black box is it's like a theater term. And
Oh.
if you're not in theater, you might not be familiar with that term, which basically means you're going to make something out of nothing. Um,
Oh, see, I was
yeah,
thinking of
so
the airplane crashes and then
oh,
there's that black box.
oh my God, that's terrible.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh, that's so funny. But still, even so, like that made no sense with, what we were trying to do. Like we believe art is for everyone, all community, without, getting blocked by paywalls or anything like that. So we literally
Mm,
just want to create joy. And that's why there was a strategic planning and rebranding
yes.
in 2022. And that's when I became their director.
Okay. Okay. So they knew you because you were an event planner already. This is what you do. This is how you find your joy. Because I remember that we met or our paths crossed when you were at the Downer bid, the business improvement district, running the tour of America's Dairyland and all
Yeah.
the fun stuff that happens on Downer because I used to write the North Point magazine. So I remember that was your path. But is that what kinds of stuff do you do in your own personal event planning business?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. So when you and I crossed paths, not only was I producing that Downer, bike event, but I was their business improvement district director. So I was the director of Downer. I was also the director of Brady Street's business district.
Whoa.
And Brady Street is where it's basically where I learned how to do event production. So I was on Brady Street from '08 till 2020, but produced that festival a
Oh
couple
yeah.
years past that, obviously with a break in there for COVID, but helped the new director kind of get going so that they would be able to produce it. And then went to Shorewood's business district for a while too, where I
Okay.
produced their Shorewood Feast and their bike race. And
Oh,
so what happened was like in 2014, someone had approached me and asked if I could produce a World Cup party, like a festival. And I was like, I was unsure how to do that because I was a bid director and I didn't want anyone to feel like I was playing favorites for a business that had requested this of me or anything like that. And my husband's like, just start a business. And I was like, what do you mean start a business? He's like, start an event production business. And I was like, oh. So that's literally how it happened and how I ended up in like this event production space because on Brady Street, we were so hyper focused on events
mm,
that I just had to learn how to do this. So this is
mm.
all like kind of learning by fire kind of situation.
Yes, I love that because I don't know how far back you know about the podcast, but we started this because I wanted to highlight women who sometimes just take the next step, right? The next right step. And a lot of what I'm finding is that women, I don't want to say stumble into it, but just kind of they just work themselves into it because this is what they have to do. When you take the next step,
Yeah.
you just land there. I love that story. That's
Well,
awesome.
I had never thought in a million years that I would own a business someday. It just never crossed my mind. I was raised by a single mom. My dad passed when we were really little, and she was a full-time teacher. So that's, you kind of around that kind of situation. And I thought, oh, I'll find a regular job and, you know, have a 401k. And I know you just kind of like, you just kind of think it's gonna just kind of be this thing. And then so my husband, though, is kind of entrepreneurial, and when I met him, he was in a business with his brother and sister. So for him, and his dad was, self-employed, so he was always around people that had their own business.
Mm,
So when he said it to me, I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I am not a business owner. That's weird." He's
yeah.
like, "Well, I am now."
Yeah, yes. And so you did it. And then you just become known as the woman that people go to for these kind of fun, interesting, maybe one-off or I don't know, events like this?
Yeah, so specifically, it ended up being Milwaukee events, city events, urban events, because of the logistics for permits, DPW, policing, all those sorts of things. So, like, if I had to plan an indoor event, I don't know if I'd be like, wait, what? I don't quite think I know how to do that. Yeah, so everything, almost like every event I produce is an outdoor event, usually somewhere in the middle of a city or a park or a beach where there's
Mm,
permits and regulations and lots of people to work through everything with. So
wow.
it's been
Yeah.
super interesting and a lot of fun.
Yeah. So in Wisconsin, does that mean you're not busy from December to May?
I try to catch up on like all the admin stuff for Joy Engine on the in
Yes.
those times. And it's funny because when Joy Engine approached me about becoming, their director, I had been running business districts, for a really long time at that point. And they totally wooed me away. I mean, they literally said, "We just want to create joy in the city." And I was like, "Well, how does a person say no to that?"
Right?
Right? And they had said, "Well, will you keep your event company?" I'm like, "Yep, I'll always have that. Like, I feel like that's kind of my baby." And they were cool with it. And obviously, I just never schedule an event that's going to overlap with a Joy Engine event.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, and they let me run with it. So,
yeah. Well, so let's talk a little bit about Joy Engine events then. Maybe in terms of, I don't know, is there one event that you look back and say, ah, this is exactly why we do what we do. Here we landed the joy. This is joy.
oh man, I mean, I feel like for any outdoor event we're doing for Joy Engine, it's kind of that feeling every time we
Hmm.
do that, you know? It was really funny to when they said we want to bring a moon because no one knew what we were talking about. What do you mean you want to hang up a moon in a park? Like that, it made zero sense. But like once people saw it, they're like, "Oh, that's so cool," right?
Yes.
And I think that's kind of a lot of it, and that's a little bit. It's also been a little bit detrimental because we do a lot of like one-off just pop-ups. And so we did a moon event, and then once COVID came and went, we did the birds. Yep.
Hmm.
So we had 22 plastic crazy colored birds in Lakeshore State Park, and and programmed like 18 different events. So it was a 6 week art installation with tons of programming, and that was a lot of fun. But then they're gone, right?
Yes.
We did gift two of the birds to the city.
Okay. I
So
was gonna
those,
say, are
yes.
they're down by the public market, right?
Yep,
Okay.
they're
Yep.
down by the public market. Yep, those were from us. So we were able to save those two. And then, we went on to do a light festival, the first projection lighting festival down on Mitchell Street, where we lit up the Mitchell Street Arts Building, which was also crazy insane. But it's hard to describe to people what we're about to do. Like they're
Hmm.
like, you're gonna light up a building? It doesn't sound cool, right? When you're like trying to explain what it is.
Right. You have to
And
just be, you have to
then,
be there. Yeah.
and yeah, so if you miss it and we're doing a pop-up, then it's like, oh man, I didn't get to see but they'll see it on social and be like, oh, bummer. I didn't
Hmm.
get there or whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but it is cool. Like when people are there, it's just like so satisfying to see people's faces light up and, something as simple as a plastic bird I mean, people just loved them. It just made people smile. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Hmm. I absolutely do. I
So,
was one of those people for sure. It just that the randomness of going to Lakeshore Park and just seeing these huge, I don't know how big they were, like 8 foot tall or something. They were big. They're big
yeah, they
plastic
were big.
birds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are they now? Are they, so do you have to give them back to the artist? Is that how it?
Yeah, so what happens is they get returned to the artist who then melts them down and
Oh,
then yeah, and they'll create another, animal out of them. They're always going to be a different animal, but they
oh,
keep reusing all that plastic, which is
oh, that
which is
is.
pretty cool. So they have like penguins, they have snails and like turtles. They have all different things.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know. I just hear I'm like, maybe they rent a storage unit somewhere and there's just
No,
22
no,
birds
they
sitting in a
keep using,
storage.
yeah, they keep using all that. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is
hmm
awesome.
hmm
So, are the artists that you choose to do these things, are they local artists or are they just artists that make these cool things that you find?
So the first couple events we did were international artists. So the moon was created by an artist named Luke Jerem. He's somewhere in Europe. I'm not remembering exactly where he's from right now. Sorry. And then the birds were from a group in Italy.
Mm,
After that, and kind of after COVID, I kind of felt like I wanted to go a little bit like hyper local, find what other artists in this city are doing and how can we kind of highlight that.
mm,
So, for example, the next project after the birds was the lighting festival down on Mitchell Street. So, I found this is so great. So, I started talking to digital artists in the city, and honestly, no one had ever really done projection mapping, which is a specific kind of digital art and animation you need for this type of project.
Hmm.
So what happens is a map of the building is created, like everything, every little window is outlined, every column, every post, every detail of this building is there's a map made of it. So then the artists have to create imagery that fits all within inside of the map.
Mm. Hmm.
So I went to my ad and went to their Department of Innovation and Technology, and they had never done it. They knew what it was, but they're like, yeah, we can figure this out. So we got a group of students from my ad, and then I just started asking around the city and eventually found some other digital artists who also had never done this project before, but they're like, we can learn. We'll figure this out by the time you need it. And literally had artists learning how to do projection mapping for
Wow.
this event. So it was really special because there's tons of projection mapping artists in the world, not tons, but there are several that I could have called to come in or create a piece for us. But I was like,
Mm.
let's do this, Milwaukee. Let's see what
Yes.
happens. And it
Oh,
wasn't it really was amazing. We called it Nightlight, and it was just again a pop-up weekend in September on Mitchell Street. So
that is so cool. And
yeah.
celebrating what a cool place too. I was just down there for the first time. I didn't really, I'd heard of it, but I don't know what I assumed it was, but not realizing it was for adults and you can just go in and take cool classes and just this beautiful space there. So,
Yeah, and I think Mitchell Street is often overlooked and underrepresented, and that was another thing we kind of came to the conclusion that we kind of wanted to come out of downtown because everybody knows about downtown. So
yeah.
let's explore some different parts of the city. And now we're moving over to the beaches because we think the beaches need to be a little more active.
Yeah. Well, like last summer with this crazy what did I call it?
They
Cosmopod? Is
were,
that what you
they
call
were,
it?
yeah, yeah, they called it the Cosmopods. So those were original inflatable pieces that were produced by a local artist group called Fuzz Pop Workshop.
Mm.
So,
Love
yep.
it.
And again, they're like, we'll figure it out. They had never done, anything of that scale for an outdoor event. They had done some other gallery installations and that sort of thing. But we went to them and was like, we want to do something crazy. What do you think? And they were like, yeah, we're in. So
Yes, yes, love it. Will they be back this summer? Can we
they
expect a
will.
return? Oh, yay.
Yeah, so those events, the beach events we call it Art Blaze, are coming back this summer. And those are going to be 3 Thursdays beginning July 24th. So it'll
Okay.
be July 24th, August 7th, and August 21st.
Awesome.
And all three of them will be at McKinley Beach, which is a beach that was all redone.
Mm,
That's the one. It's down, on Lincoln Memorial, right next to the Milwaukee Yacht Club is down there, and the Roundhouse near
yes,
McKinley
yeah. And there's
Marina.
is there a little playground
There's a
there? Yep,
playground.
yep.
Yep, the
I
beach is
know.
all totally redone and really beautiful. And that's where we're gonna be this summer.
Oh, so
So
fun. Yay. Okay,
yeah,
I will make sure I put those dates in the show notes because I think listeners
absolutely.
will
Yeah.
want to check that out.
So Fuzz Pop is back, but the cool part is we had asked them, would you guys ever be interested in working like students or anything like that? We would love to give other people an opportunity to work on these crazy installations that we like to do. And they were like, "Oh, we've been talking to students at UWM, well, a professor there who teaches a class that's literally called AIR." So there's a school, yep, in the School of
Hmm.
Architecture and Urban Planning, there is a class that studies air and how it's been used in architecture for like domes and that sort of thing. If you think about how air is built into like architecture,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the professor agreed to partner up with FuzzPop, and they basically project managed and did curriculum together. And for the students' final project, they had to pitch to us what they wanted to do on the beach for the summer.
Oh, fun.
So it was really cool because normally architecture students are just solely like on a computer, creating designs that maybe never will be realized, right?
Mm.
These kids got hands-on experience. They learned how to sew. They learned how to do like heat zippers and all sorts of things. They learned about all sorts of fabrics and materials that can be used for inflatables.
Wow.
And we inflated a bunch of stuff inside UWM.
Oh,
And even one day got to hold class inside just a giant inflatable canvas one day. I mean, everybody crawled through a tunnel to get into the makeshift classroom. Even the professor crawled right in, and
yes.
everybody brought lights with. It was just so much fun.
That's so
It was a
cool. So was
riot.
it kind of like a little Shark Tanky-ish and they built their
Yep,
prototype so you got to
yep,
choose which one is going to be on the beach?
totally. Yeah.
That's so fun. So in addition to these Cosmopods
Nope, it'll be
or they
different.
okay.
Yep,
So those particular ones won't be coming back. It'll be these new ones designed by
correct.
Oh,
Yes.
fun. That
Yeah,
is so cool.
yeah.
I love that you're bringing in the local. Go Milwaukee. We can do this.
I
Yes.
know, right?
So much. Yeah. Yeah. Are you I don't know. I was gonna say, do you get any pushback from, I don't know, anyone in the arts world, or does it feel like you're all collaborating? Everybody's in support. Who cannot be in support of Joy Engine? But I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think, people were trying, I mean, we were too, were trying to figure out exactly what it was we were trying to do. I think I would hope the artist community has embraced what we're doing. We do give out grants once a year too to local artists, and we call them community joy grants. And
mm,
we usually give about $50,000 out to people who want to create joy in their community. And it's a very loose term. Like community can be where you live or you work or your play or, you know, a group that you are associated with. The difference with our grants too is that it can be open to an individual artist. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You don't have to be, affiliated with any other arts organization.
mm,
So it's kind of fun and really, really, really hard to choose. But I
yeah,
mean, really cool. Like, I don't know if people really know. There are some amazing talent in the city, and people are doing so like cool, cool, cool things here.
yeah, yeah.
And you just don't know. There's so much happening.
Yes,
And
I
so that's been
agree.
really cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been
So
really
what, for
cool.
example, can you give us any examples of this year's winners or last year's winners or whatever it would be?
Yeah, so the grants run from, so the beginning of the year and they have all the way through the end of the year to like for their deliverables. This year it happened to be that a couple of people who wanted to produce some independent films have won. One of them is an artist by the name of Natalie Durr who met Milwaukee's Black Cowboy, and
Mm.
she's doing a film about Milwaukee's Black Cowboy.
Oh,
And you maybe have never heard of
I
him.
have not.
I
No.
hadn't either. Yeah, so it's pretty fascinating. There's a gentleman on the north side who literally rides his horse around, and he has a workshop, and he's just known as the Black Cowboy. But there's a ton of history there,
Huh.
and she's going to dig into that and make a short film and teach us all about the Black Cowboy.
Well, I love it. That
Yeah,
sounds
so there's just
joyful.
cool stuff happening. Yeah, and then. I'm trying to think about there's so many others. One of the first ones was super fun. In Muskego Way, there is a park there that people kept driving their cars through. You're not supposed to drive through there. So La Familia de Arte made these beautiful concrete mosaic bollards.
Mm.
So it's that project was twofold. It's safety to keep the park safer. Plus,
Mm.
they had a ton of community members come and help them design the mosaic tiles that became a part of these massive concrete bollards.
Mm.
So
Mm.
Yeah, there's just cool stuff happening all over the place.
Yes, yeah. And people could look at the recipients on the website. Are they up
Yeah,
there? And okay, so people could
yeah.
find that. Okay, I will
Hmm.
link to that too, because that sounds.
Yeah.
How many applications do you get for these grants?
Usually around like 55 every
Wow.
year. Yeah. So I bring in judges, which are local artists from the area, one of our board members, so it's not just our board deciding. I kind of like to see what like other artists in the community think that would, be good fit for the projects and that sort of thing. So that's really fun too. But it's kind of cool. Like it's a lot of reading, right? So this group has to read like 55 applications and then they show up and we do a day of like going through everything and we've got our scorecards and I try to like feed them lunch. So they'll do it again. Like, yeah, it's a fun day, but it's hard because you want to be able to fund everybody. Like you
Yes.
just want to be able to. Like you're like, oh my God, I wish I could.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. Hmm.
How, speaking of funding, how are you funded? How is Joy Engine funded?
So we were gifted some money from our founder who was on the board for a little while. She's no longer on the board. But other than that, we are just like every other organization. We're writing for grants. We're looking for corporate sponsorships. We work with foundations. So
Because the events themselves, to go to the Art Blaze, for example, on the beach, you don't have to pay a fee. There's no entry.
right. That's one thing I think we'll never change. Like we'd probably end as an organization before we'd start charging to come to our events because
Mm,
that's kind of the whole premise about how this started. Like sometimes if you mention the word art to someone, they're like, "Oh, that's not for me." Like I'm not into art or they don't want to walk into a gallery because they don't feel like it's for them.
mm,
And so, the premise is kind of like art actually is a part of your life. It's everywhere and it's for everyone. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah.
I'm curious. You obviously we're in summer, so going toward the beach makes perfect sense. But you did mention Mitchell Street and getting out of
Mhm.
the downtown area. Do you look with the art to get all over Milwaukee, or are there, I don't know, places that you stay away from, or is the idea to bring the whole city into the joy?
Yeah, so the idea is so this is the first year where we're actually like kind of repeating and bringing something back, which is this beach event. And in choosing this year's beach, what we did was look at the Milwaukee Parks Foundation has an equity index,
Hmm.
and the higher the number on that on their scale, the higher the need for, activation for that community or for community members in general. So McKinley Beach fell a little higher on the equity index. So we're like, yeah, that's cool. Let's go there so we can activate that space. We're trying to figure out every year what can we do differently. So I don't think that we'll necessarily stay on the beaches. Initially, we thought, oh, well, it'll just be a beach event every year. But now we're like, let's take this sucker on the road and, see how many different neighborhoods we can hit. So we do have plans to be in other parts of the city. We want to be able to go to all sorts of parts of like every part of the city at some point. Like, I don't know if we'd ever be able to, how long we'd ever be able to do that, but that
Yeah.
would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people work at Joy Engine?
Just me, and then I have a special projects coordinator.
Okay.
And then, I contract out for like social media help and that sort of
Okay.
thing
So
and PR.
it's a small team. That makes it makes sense that you
It's
can't be
yeah,
everywhere at
it's a
once.
tiny team.
Is there anything that as under your leadership that you would like Joy Engine to grow toward or do in addition to?
I mean, I have just like these visions of grandeur and, my Instagram feed is all these crazy, awesome art things happening around the world. And I'm like,
Mm,
oh man, I want to do that here. So it's like, it's how to figure out how to do it all. You know what I mean? Because one of the reasons we brought the Beach Art Blaze events back this year is because we've noticed that for funders and sponsors, corporate sponsors, that sort of thing, it's hard for funders to wrap their head around a pop-up event. They want to
Mm,
know how many people were there last year, what was the attendance, like what kind of activities took place. They might want to see, some other statistics about whether or not people from out of town are visiting, what zip codes we're hitting, all sorts of different markers that make a funder feel comfortable with helping you out.
mm. You mean
So
they don't just do it just for the joy?
they don't. So the pop-up events are real tricky because you can't show them last year's video. There is no
Mm,
last year's video, right?
yeah,
And especially like with the moon too, they were like, what are you talking about? Like they had an inflatable moon? That sounds so dumb.
yeah.
Like, what? What are you doing? So, you know, bringing these beach events back, but still switching up as much as we can to make them unique every single time. Like the programming is different every night that we have them. The art will be different this year. The activities will be different. Some of the things will remain the same, like the general, like we're going to have music and entertainment. We're going to have crazy inflatable artwork that people will
Hmm.
be able to interact with. But some of the details are different just so it never gets boring for people. But
Yeah.
I want to do more. Like I want to do that light event again in a different part of the city on a different building. So it's like,
Mm,
how do we do that? And people keep asking us to bring the moon back. And
mm.
now there's an Earth also. It's called Gaia. And there's also a Mars. And I'm like, let's bring all three. Like, I know, I just want to do all of it.
Yeah,
And I don't know how we would do it. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
it's the funding and it's the staffing and it's all the things. Like, and
yeah.
there's only so much time in a day.
Right, right. Well, it feels like you're building the traction of success anyway, even if you can't, even if you're doing something different every time, at least the funders hopefully are seeing that every time you do it, whatever it is, it's a huge hit with the
Right.
with the public. People are coming and they're loving
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
you've got all the local cool bands down there, I noticed.
Always. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's so much talent in this city.
Yeah.
There's so much. And, I won't ever need to repeat bands or musicians because we, we have, we have it all for
Yeah.
years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
And
pretty cool.
I didn't make I think I was out of town on the Art Blazes last year, but that you have interactive, not only the huge things that maybe they can touch, but also things that people can do and take home, like little art projects as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So we partner with a lot of local arts organizations like Arts at Large and artists working in education. We have a tie-dye station. So there's things that people can come down and do, and those are all free activities.
Mm,
So people can bring stuff home or try things out. That's important for us too. So yeah, so part of our, we build that all into the budget. So we pay for these organizations to come down. For the material and the time that they take because they all need funding too. So
mm,
yeah, yeah.
nice. That is so
Hmm.
cool. That what a beautiful thing to bring art to the people. I love that because I think you're right. I think some people hear art and might think, "Oh, it's hoity-toity," or "It's that's too highbrow," or "That's not
Totally.
something I grew up with. I don't even know where the galleries are in town. It's just not my
Yeah,
bag."
right.
But that you're bringing it to places that feel accessible to everyone,
Yeah.
like beaches and parks, and
Right. It's because everybody knows what to do at a beach. So
yeah.
come hang out at the beach and we're just happen to have all this other fun stuff you can try.
Yes, love it, love it. So 2025 is really the beaches again. Is there anything else on the docket?
Nope, just the grant, the grantees are working away at their projects. So we'll be following those along closely and helping them promote a little more this year. We built in a little more PR so that we can start telling the stories of other people in the community and all the good and cool things they're doing. So
Yes,
yeah.
cool,
Hmm.
cool. Okay. And if people do want to follow along with you, what is the best way for people to stay in touch and find out? Do you have a mailing list? Should they follow on your website?
Yeah, if you go to our website, joyengine.org, one of those maybe annoying pop-ups will come on that say stay in touch with us.
Okay.
Or yeah,
Yep.
so people can sign up there. And we don't send out a million newsletters. It's usually, a quarterly thing and or just information about what's coming up next.
Cool.
So yeah, yeah.
Cool. And you're on the Instagram, Facebook, all those socials as well that people can get from there?
At Joy Engine.
Cool. Well, and two questions that I have been asking everyone this season. First of all, who is a woman in Milwaukee who, as you've been living here and doing your thing, that you see as bringing joy in this city?
I mean, really, honestly, our founder is Deb Kern, and she's the one whose idea this was to create joy.
Mm.
She is creating joy all over the city, and people don't really know that. She flies under the radar, and that's how she likes it. And she's just an amazing human being. She's just doing so much good for the city and creating so much joy, and people have no idea.
And is her background in event planning also? Is that?
No,
Oh,
no. So she is the owner of Mod Gen in the Third Ward.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's an
and
awesome store.
Doug, who is the manager there, is another. So Deb and Doug are the founders. He manages Mod Gen. He's been running it for 19 years, I believe.
Mm.
So that's how they met through, the Mod Gen store and all that kind of fun stuff. And that's how this
Wow.
all
Uh,
started.
Love it. Oh, I love those
Yeah.
stories. And then the second question that I'm asking specifically on this season is because it's about joy, what advice do you have for people who are looking to find more joy, who maybe aren't feeling it? Because let's face it, we're in, tough times right
Weird
now.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
weird times. What advice do you have for people looking to find more joy?
So actually we've been talking I've been talking about this a lot with family and friends, and what's been keeping us joyful in between all the weird and chaotic things that are happening is spending that time with like-minded humans. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Like just surround yourself with people you love and just stay away from the haters. Like anybody who's going to bring you down, I mean, kind of any time, don't ever hang around with the haters or the naysayers. But like, I just think it's so much more important now more than ever. And that may be very small group of people, like that for certain have your back and are there to give you a hug or a high five or whatever, a
Yes.
100 million%, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's
So
kind of what
true.
what we've been doing at my
Yes.
house.
Finding your
Yep.
people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could not agree
Yeah.
more.
Right.
Well, thank you, Steph, so much for bringing the joy, for creating the joy, for allowing artists to share their joy, and essentially giving the city permission to be joyful in the summer and
Yay!
all these days. Yeah, we so need this right
Don't we
now. Yes.
though?
So I'm grateful for these kinds of projects that you're doing. I'm hoping to get to, or I know I'm there for at least the second two.
Okay,
So
good.
I for sure am going to be down on the beach. But I'm so grateful to you and to Joy Engine for facilitating things like this so that we can all get out of our silos and just get to the beach and get some joy.
Let's do it.
Mm. An organization whose mission is about spreading joy. Sign me up. Yes, yes. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you have some of those Thursdays free to head down to McKinley Beach to check out the Art Blaze this summer, July 24th, August 7th, August 21st. Sounds like a blast. And I'm excited to see what the UWM students came up with. I love that Joy Engine decided to go local and collaborate with the university to build the art installations. People always talk about the brain drain from Milwaukee, from the Midwest, but what better way to keep people here than to keep on keeping the joy in the city and to make it fun to live here, and to be a part of this joyful community. So no tickets required. Just come down to the beach and get your joy on. I want to thank you, listeners, for following along on this season of Joy. We still have so many incredible women coming to the podcast this summer who are also bringing the joy to Milwaukee, maybe not with life-sized fluorescent Cosmopods, but in their own special way. So I hope you will stay tuned. I hope you are subscribed wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. And I hope you're subscribed to the newsletter, because that's where I share events and other fun happenings with the Cream City Dreamers, which I'm trying to do more often, because I have to say, on this social media detox this month, I have really been enjoying getting out and about and making more connection in the real world, in real life. So much more fun than DMs and comments on posts. So I hope you'll join me by signing up at the website, creamcitydreams.com. And while you're there, if you're liking the podcast, you could buy me a coffee, keep me caffeinated, and help with some of the behind the scenes costs with running a podcast that is a labor of love. But boy, do I love this. And I love this season of women who are bringing the joy. So tune in next week when I will be back with another incredible Milwaukee woman who is living the joy and celebrating a year of joy in her new place. I'm talking about Tiffany Miller over at Fruition MKE. And if this isn't ringing bells, it should. And you'll find out more next week when her episode drops on Wednesday. Until then, Milwaukee, keep on dreaming.